Remember, the key to success is working hard. For our country, we must have regard. Forget all your differences, let we start to build. And onward to progress we surely will. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production.
Now, more than ever before, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production. Grenada belongs to all of us, and we have a stake here. Therefore, we must work harder and smarter to advance our country, to build our communities, to transform our homes and our lives. I want to welcome you to this segment in the program where I will speak, laying the foundation for meaningful engagement. And I want to encourage those on Facebook, as usual, please share the live. Sharing is caring. And those on YouTube, please share the link, share it, share the channel, so others will get the opportunity to listen in. And subscribe. When you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. And on Facebook, follow. Click follow, like, follow, or like. That's important. I want to start off this morning by providing the parents with students who will be going to TAMCC or who are actually at TAMCC, second year students. So you may have heard the government speaking to their policy of free tertiary education, meaning you having access to TAMCC and NULO specifically. And when it comes to TAMCC, if you're a new student, you are only required to pay for registration, the registration fee. Right? The registration fee. That's $30. And that's normal for every student to register. Because remember, they are required to print stuff. They're required to provide you with stuff. And you will be asked to pay $150 for IT, the IT aspect of it, because they have to print, they have to send stuff to you via email. So there's a need to pay somebody or a team or 2 or 3 or 4 people to do that work. So you are required to pay $180. So $30 for registration. You must register to get in. So you're not paying any, tuition fee, this $800 and so on and so forth. You're not required to pay that. You're only required to pay the $30 registration fee and $150 for IT. Because remember, nowadays, everything is online. So they will provide you with all that stuff online. All right? That's very important. So only $180. But if you're late in paying or registering, then there will be a late fee. That's kind of normal in anything in life. You owe taxes there and you're late in paying your taxes, there will be penalties. There will be, arrears. It is simple like that. So if you're late, then you will be required to pay, I think, between, is it $30 and $50, somewhere between there, to register to get in. So you're not required to pay this $800 or $900 that is being bandied about. For the second year students, and you may have received that message, right? That message from the college, the second year students, which reads as follow. All right, let me get it for you because it's important. It says, dear students, please note that, right, please note that there will be no tuition fee, right? No tuition fee for all full-time students, right? However, you will be required to pay $5 to receive a receipt or financial statement. You will need the financial statement to present to the records office before registering. So that's important. All right. So there's no tuition fee that you have to go and pay again because it's, a new term or a start of a new term and you have to pay this and pay that. And no, what they're saying here is that all the students, right, first time students, you're going to TAMCC, you're going to get registered, you will be required to pay that $30 to register. $30. That's normal. And because everything is done online for the college, more or less, you will be required to pay 150 EC for IT to make sure that you get all your stuff. So again, just providing you with that information because it seems as though some people are confused. All right? Some people are confused, it seems as though. Because what would have happened before this policy decision was taken, TAMCC sent out to the second year students a message saying that they are required to pay. And then they sent a message after, right? They sent a message after that, clearing it up because the policy decision was taken by the government after, right? It's very, very important. You need to know that so you would not be too confused. So if you go to TAMCC now, what I'm telling you is what you will encounter. $30 registration fee, $150 for IT, because everything for you is really and truly done through that means. It's no longer printing plenty stuff. That is over. You would have a email address, account set up, and all that is required. All right. So that's the first thing I want to clear up for you. And the second thing, I looked at GBN because I have a critical eye for certain details. And there was this piece that GBN brought regarding Bowler. That's Roland Bowler. All right. And in that piece, you saw the footage, right? So Bowler is on the To The Point program, but they wanted to provide some footage of the NNP. But if you look carefully, that footage is not current. That footage was taken from the NNP convention, the last convention, how many years ago? A good time ago, right? And Mia Mottley, that's Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, and this lady from St. Mark, right, who lives in the UK. I think her name is Akima Paul. So they were in attendance at that uh, event. So it was not really, you know, current or reflective of what Bola is talking about, putting things back together for the NNP. The NNP is in chaos. The NNP has serious infighting and confusion. But GBN playing that piece and putting that footage there gave people that false idea that that is the state of the NNP, that the members are united and that, you know, they're organized and so on. And that's not the case. NNP is in chaos. NNP is, there is serious infighting and bacchanal in the NNP. That is why they cannot have a convention. I mean, how long? They should have had a convention a long time ago, right? So again, GBN has to be very careful because as a viewer looking at this, the first thing you get is that these people are organized and they have X and Y in place. No, the NNP is a wreck. The NNP is a mess at this point in time. Serious infighting, serious biddy bang. So the footage there that they use for that piece is not current. It is not the current state of the NNP. The NNP is a mess at this point in time. They have serious problems within the NNP. That is why they cannot have a convention. They cannot hold a convention. It's not possible, right? Maybe down the road they go fight up to pull something together. But the NNP is in a real serious crisis. But GBN as usual, I am very observant, and there are people who called me and say, Kem Jones, is that recent? But that's not recent. It's not recent. The footage is not recent. It's an old footage. But we have to get to that place where we can say to GBN, NNP recently had a meeting in River Road. They recently had a meeting somewhere on the west, somewhere in the east. Why not use recent footage? Right? You're afraid to use that because the numbers will not be as that convention footage you used. It will be, the usual thing, poorly attended. But no, they used that footage. Was it to bring across a certain message to the audience, to the people viewing? It scares me a bit because we need to be careful as people in the media, reporters, journalists, because there are people with sense who are observing these things, right? They're observing it. And you can also conclude that the media is still obsessed with the NNP. A lot of good things are happening in Grenada, but the media is not showcasing that the way they should. Yes, GIS trying their best. And even the recordings that the GIS did recently with some of our ministers, the audio was not what it's supposed to be. Right? We need to see, just as our beloved Prime Minister was interviewed with a cordless mic, and the host, Sherian Noel, had a cordless pin-on mic, right? Pin-on mic. That should be the same thing for all the ministers who you're interviewing. So you interviewed Andy Williams, he should have the same thing. You interviewed uh, Jonathan Lacrette, they should have the same thing because the audio was not what it's supposed to be. Poor quality. In fact, I cannot even feature some of those ministers because the audio quality is extremely poor. Our beloved Prime Minister audio quality is perfect because they used a pin on mic, right? On him, which is great, excellent. That small mic, they needed to do the same thing for all the ministers, everybody they were interviewing. And it would have been better quality because I have to put up this thing way up. And then when you listen to it on the radio, you would still get a static, you would still get this off song. But I thought I should see that because it's important as I observe certain things. At this point, let me feature the Honorable, the Honorable Ron Redhead. The Honorable Ron Redhead, well, his audio was a little better than the others. His audio, because he was speaking directly into that mic that they placed in front of him. But it should have been the pin-on mic that should have been used for those ministers, so the quality would be better. All right, they were speaking far away, and this mic can't pick up the audio the way it's supposed to. But let's listen to the Honorable Ron Redhead. And before I play that, may I add here that the Public Workers Union will be signing that agreement uh, this afternoon. I think this afternoon, and they would agree to the same percentage from what I am understanding. The same 4%, 4%, 5%. Right? So I understand that the Public Workers Union will be signing that agreement sometime this afternoon, and they would agree to pretty much the same thing. All right? They were negotiating for some fringe benefits, which is great, which is wonderful. The only union that would be, outstanding or yet to sign onto this whole agreement would be Tau. So Tau would be, and I think Tau represents about what, 51 workers? I think it's about 51 workers Tau represents. So let us see how it goes from here. It's good news because there is this petition in circulation by workers of the Public Workers Union forcing the hands of the union to sign on to the agreement because they want their money. All right, because they believe that this government is a pro-worker government, a government who believes in workers, and that the government is genuine with the unions and the workers. So let's wish them all the best, and let's hope that Tau can do the same thing. All right.
date since the National Democratic Congress won the elections and formed the government on the theme of transformation. It is my privilege to sit with the Minister of State within the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture, the Honorable Ron Redhead, to speak about the past year in terms of his achievements, his challenges, the transition, what he met, what he changed, what is to come, and his plans for the next 4 years. Minister, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Sherian. It's a pleasure coming here after 1 year.
I just want us to begin by, breaking the ice and speaking to your transition. You're no stranger to politics, but it's the first time that you're actually within the government.
That's correct.
How has that transition been for you?
Well, it has been threefold, both rewarding, excellent learning opportunity, and also very busy. So it required me, and I'll start with the busy part, it required me to a large extent to spend tremendous time on the ground, in the office as well, dealing with meetings of high levels, and also having to give some time to family. So it has been a very, very busy period thus far. Learning because, you always have to learn. And this, in fact, was something new for many of us in the government, and it was able to place a profound impact in just 1 year in terms of what we can actually achieve. Looking at situations both from the macro and micro level, it has been an excellent opportunity. And then, of course, rewarding, because it's not every day a 31-year-old will get to say that he is a Minister of Sports, Youth or Culture.
Because I was going to ask you next, how comfortable are you with that ministry? Because youth in itself is much more than a handful, and you still have sports with that and culture.
Yeah, so it gets very hectic, but one has to understand what he or she is dealing with. In relation to youth in particular, once you have the vision as to the end product, it doesn't matter how many circles you go around or which doors you pass through, you're going to get to the final destination. And for me, it's an excellent opportunity, not just to impact my generation, but the future generations, my son, daughter, and those to come even after them. So it's an excellent opportunity to leave your mark and to demonstrate how you are prepared to make it a better world for your children and your children's children.
So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to reflect a bit on the process that got you elected. One of it had to do with empowerment of young people, and a lot was said about the Imani program, the Empower program, and so. On getting into office, one of the areas was the revamping of the Imani program. How has that gone in the past year?
Right. It was very hectic. We had to a great extent, it was like pulling teeth. We had to really dig deep to find out information, to find out the nature of the structure that existed, and to find out essentially what was supposed to be the end game. But nonetheless, we were able to acquire a great amount of facts and information surrounding the current Imani program. So I can say to you that it was actually seen as a welfare program as opposed to something transformative and empowering. And it created, to a large extent, a number of young people relying on wages that are below minimum, and also having to be under the guise of training for over periods of 13, 10 years, etc. So it, in a sense, stymied a large portion of young people in terms of their own contribution as productive citizens to Grenada. So in the quest of trying to fix that, what we have embarked upon was to cease new registration of the program. Prior to the June 23rd election in May, a batch of, that's batch 8, of 1,200 young people came into the program. And I can tell you, there was no placement for them, and the vast majority are either still at home and have not been engaged. And so this has posed a tremendous problem for us coming in, having to already deal with the backlog of young people who have not sought or obtained permanent employment. But nonetheless, one of the things that we have done successfully is to commence the transition process. NT have completed their own review on the Imani program, They have met with the ministry. We are now in the process of transitioning a number of young people into permanent jobs. Only recently, one of the private sector institutions, they interviewed 13 young people and was able to keep 4. So out of that batch, you have a situation where now 4 Imani trainees prior are now permanently employed at an establishment, private sector establishment. And so the same is true for Karakou Piti Matnik. They have been able to put at least 5 or 6 young people who prior was on the program onto the unestablished workers list at the ministry under a contract. And so it takes them off the program and increases the wage that they can obtain. And ONLA has spoken to me and has given the assurance that they are interested to keep theirs, certainly following an assessment. So what we are doing by and large is stopping the amount of people coming onto the program because we do not have placements for them currently, and we do not want to pretend to anybody. And also finding a mechanism to get the current group of young people who are on the program permanently employed. Again, that is going to be done through a method of assessments.
Okay.
So private sector and public sector is going to be involved.
Another important component too within the structure of the Ministry of Youth is that of the Empower program.
Yes.
And you would have had a graduation recently. How satisfied are you with how that actual program is structured, and what sort of recommendations came on board in terms of improving it if you're going to go forward with it?
So we're very satisfied, and kudos to the former administration for implementing such a program. We did see some weak areas. One such area had to do with the grant component. In fact, it is not properly managed. We have since ceased that operation. From equipment, all these other things, it went missing. There was no record at the ministry for what was coming in. So therefore, when it was going out, nobody could say if, in fact, it was supposed to be 2 weed eaters or such. So we have since put a structure in place to rectify that, and have since graduated the amount of trainees that we met coming in 1 year ago on the program, graduated them, and certainly more is going to look. We're looking and interested to expand this program because it targets young men in particular. And I believe, honestly, that that is going to contribute to making some of the young people who are unskilled and unproductive become productive young men in society. So it's something that we are happy to have and will continue.
And how satisfied are you, or how welcoming was it for you, seeing that some of the young men who have been incarcerated were also given an opportunity within such a program so that they can be reintegrated within society? Yeah,
so what the program provided was to institutionalize, provided the opportunity to institutionalize training and developing young men in particular who were incarcerated. It seeks to target the issue at the His Majesty's prison, which is the recidivism, in terms of inmates returning and repeating crimes and being incarcerated over and over. So one of the things that we have done is to say under the program we are going to see an upgrade in terms of the prison component. Rather than have it as just a limited thing, even after they come out, we want to see how we could still target some of the young men and use their stories as life-changing experiences for other young men who may be thinking about a life of crime, and how they can deter them and have them focus on more positive contributions to our society. So we are looking at the best model, and so far I could say that it's going pretty okay.
I want us to move now to the area of sport, because I am very passionate about sport myself. The playing fields across the country, previous administration would have started. Let's speak to within the year. How far have you gotten in terms of improvement to playing fields, in terms of lighting and so on?
Well, we've gotten pretty far. I think what we did when we came in was to get a full assessment of all playing facilities in the country throughout the length and breadth. Some, they have been visited by myself personally, and all of the other playing fields have been visited by the team the Ministry or Department of Sports created to complete that assessment. So we started with the assessment. We also started with the objective of ensuring that we were not going to just have maintenance contractors just to cut the fields, but to have people look after the interests of the drains, look after the interests of the washroom facilities on the playing fields, look after the interests of the bleachers, so that it does not rely on the central ministry until it gets the report quite after the fact to be able to solve a problem. So we have since transitioned a number of fields only recently from just a maintenance contractor into a facilities manager. And that seemed to be going, that process is going well.
Big on the priority listing as well was that of the sports policy. I know that there has been a consultative process that went along. What can you tell us?
Right. So we are about 70% completed with everything to be able to roll this out. The view is that we would like to have it completed at least by the end of this year. And I'll tell you which component completed. That has to do with the law.
Okay.
Because no law is passed at the moment to institutionalize the national sports policy. What we have done so far was to prepare the facilities for the parish councils. All 7 parishes, the areas have been identified, and upgrades will commence by the end of June this year and should be completed at least by November of this year. So the budget is already in place. We already have the scope of works for all 7 parishes, and we are forging ahead. So in a nutshell, the consultation yielded some amendments which we can include into the new policy, because there was a 2011 version which we used as the basis to conduct the consultation. So we're now at a point where we can say, for example, prior, we did not have a clear policy on incentive packages for athletes. And that is a challenge, because in the past, we would just agree to give athletes based on their achievements, but there was no clear policy to say or guide how much of what, that kind of thing. So we're now putting that in place. So we're happy to announce that this will be incorporated into the new policy and the draft bill.
Okay. And you are satisfied with the turnout, the feedback from the various sporting clubs and agencies?
Very satisfied. I think all associations in Grenada throughout, and even some of the new ones that are emerging, have indicated their satisfaction so far with the Ministry of Sports, Department of Sports, and our profound commitment to ensuring that we do not just talk the support, but we are there with them, ensuring that the support goes all the way, and at the end of the day, supports the very athletes in the various sporting disciplines. So I think that is a testimony to our full commitment to getting it right. Not just doing, but getting it right with sports in Grenada.
Minister, within the past year, when the sporting season opened, you would have attended a number of sports meets, be it the mini meets, the secondary, the primary, and so. Are you satisfied with the level of, or the potential that our athletes have based on the facilities that we have? And during your review of the past year, what would you say piqued your interest and that you will be going and say, okay, going forward, the Ministry of Sports will have to do that if we have to realize the true potential of our athletes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that based on my observation, I think, and there's always room for improvement. So I can't say as successful as this season may have been, there's always areas that we can improve on. But I would say particularly grassroots and community development of sports, so that we are not just leaving it up to an association with a parent organization that is not based in Grenada to run sporting activities in the country, but the ministry and government in particular will take a direct role and responsibility in ensuring that we increase the activity and involvement of young people at the lowest level, grassroots and community, to help them develop some of the basic training and components required to be able to take the sport to a higher level. So I would say grassroots for sure.
And in terms of your officers, training and so for your officers, those who go to the various schools, we call coaches and so.
Right. Well, we do have some upgrades that we need to make there, because there are some gray areas in terms of what they are actually doing. There's the debate between whether or not we have coaches or PE teachers. So we have to iron that out, and we have to ensure that what is happening is that we have both coaches and PE teachers so that we can accommodate for the CXC syllabus, which teaches physical education. So that person is supposed to be versatile, to be able to teach and also to demonstrate to the athletes in a practical way in terms of coaching or some of the requirements they have to, in terms of the skills they need to play the sport.
And under your stewardship for your first year in office, we also saw the return of the secondary schools netball tournament. How important was that for you?
Very important. Coming from a period with COVID-19, you got the sense that sports had taken a severe blow, apart from the economic situation. But sports in general had taken a severe blow because it had stopped for almost 2 years, or was going on 3. And then having a situation where we saw a complete turnaround with COVID-19 globally, it provided the opportunity to immediately jump back on the interest that was there in terms of the lull, and to get it back up at a level that our schools became interested once again. And we've not only stopped at inter-school netball, but we've also have the primary school cricket competition. We are aiming next year to have competitions in a majority of sporting disciplines. So plans are well on the way at the ministry. Only today we discussed at the management level the potential there and what are the things that we need to do, crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's to ensure that we can make that a reality next year.
Coming on to the last month of the year, we move into December. It has already been announced by West Indies that we're going to have 2 ODIs, our stadiums. I would get to the CARIFTA after, but in terms of Grenada has a cricket-loving population. The Caribbean loves cricket. Grenada is a safe haven. Plans to have the stadium ready, because we see that there is need for some dire repairs there. What's the process?
Yeah, so we have engaged the Chinese contracting firm. In particular, the People's Republic of China has been generous enough to commence that process. We've signed the contract. We are in the process of negotiating some of the final touches. I can say that they are already here. They will occupy the building at the back of the cricket stadium. Name just slipped my mind there, but they will occupy that. They will also upgrade it. So part in the delay why we didn't start earlier was to accommodate for the redesign of that.
Okay.
So the Ministry of Works did receive that, and we are in a mode to engage them finally to determine whether or not the games can proceed while they complete some of the renovation work, and eventually while they get everything out of the way. So what I would say as it relates to that, Grenada is actively ensuring that we have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted for lighting of the cricket stadium.
Okay.
We have done some preliminary work. We have received costing of it. We are in communication with 2 contractors in particular, and in soon time we'll make the announcement and commence to work there. We have also looked, so it's not just cricket, we have also looked at different options for relaying of the athletics track, which will help lead into the question, I'm certain, of CARIFTA.
That's right.
So we are going full speed ahead to ensure that from a facility standpoint, that the cricket stadium is going to be one of the NVs. So West Indies Cricket completed an assessment as well here on the stadium, and they gave some recommendations which we have received. The Ministry of Works and Department of Sports received recently, and we are looking at and looking into.
You mentioned briefly on CARIFTA. CARIFTA 2024 may have been one of your hallmark achievements for your first year in office, to win that bid, because you're going up against Trinidad was the other person who put a bid, and for Grenada to win over Trinidad, we had to have something really, really good. A lot has to be done.
Yeah.
How is that process going in terms of ensuring that Grenada will put forward a great show?
Right. So I can say to you that we have went ahead, received communication from Grenada Athletics Association that the local organizing committee has already been formed. They have been meeting. What we did at Cabinet, in keeping with the incoming national policy on sports and physical activity, was to form a national organizing committee called the NOC. Right, so that is going to be responsible directly for government's interest in games like that. So we're talking sports tourism, all the other policy areas that we want covered. We're going to ensure that we have that down pat. And again, why we formed that, next year is going to be 50 years for independence. And therefore, this CARIFTA will be a special one. And we need to make it that. One of the initiatives that we have done at the Department of Sports was to begin the plan for engaging coaches along with GA, that's the Athletics Association, to ensure that the coaches are fully supported, the current stock that exists, in terms of the training that they will give to our athletes. And then also, we need to support the athletes. So we have already looked at some areas that we see of weakness and how we can beef that up so that we can put a good showing up. Of course, we have individual athletes already performing well, tip-top shape. And therefore, what we need to do is find the mechanisms to get them to perform even better for next year so that we can win some goals, more than one, as a plan.
Oh, very well. And as we speak in sports and sports tourism, and so one of the shortfalls of Grenada, though, we do have children who go out on sports scholarships and so, is within the area of physiotherapy. How concerned are you?
Yes, we are concerned. There's a big deficit there. In fact, majority of times we do not have the, I would say, standard or quota to meet some of the big games. And because sports tourism has its own standards to upkeep, we have to ensure that from a policy standpoint, we do everything necessary to ensure that physiotherapy is something prominently featured, and we will have the right stakeholders in and around to be able to do their jobs that is required around major sporting events. So for example, we've visited Jamaica and looked at the issue of anti-doping and how that ties into physiotherapy and of course in terms of drug abuse, avoidance, etc., what athletes need to avoid, and how we can intertwine those two. I can say to you that Grenada secured the opportunity for next year to host the WADA, that's the World Anti-Doping Agency meeting. And we intend to, at that point, roll out our policy. So we've met the basic requirement, which was to pay our fees at WADA so that we can be a recognized partner in the fight against anti-doping, and to ensure that Grenada is achieving its mandate as we begin to pan out that whole sports tourism, and we do not have athletes who are engaged in doping. So the education around that, the physiotherapy, how it contributes, all of that is going to be critical as we go forward.
I am very happy that you mentioned that aspect about the anti-doping and so, because we have a lot of athletes and with raw talent, great potential, but we do have an issue with the alcohol consumption and so. Are there plans going forward to have extra educational exercises, you know, to let them have a better appreciation of what their potential can be if they're going to leave these substances alone?
So you're correct, and we must. Part of the challenge is that the system we have inherited does not make accommodation for this constant barrage of what you cannot consume. So for example, I am told that certain supplements, athletes should not be consuming them when they have to perform in certain games and meets, because it will mean that they will get a negative reading after the test is completed. And in some instances, we have had issues in the past where athletes have engaged in actual doping, and per capita, Grenada recorded a high rate of doping as a result. So what we want to do is to be in a position where we have the actual policy, which will involve the education, so that even if we do not stop some of the athletes at this top level now, but those to come can begin to experience the education around it and certainly avoid some of the drugs that they are not supposed to use.
And we move now to culture. Documentation, ensuring that, you know, your cultural foundation,
Yes.
your Ministry of Culture is, you know, meeting its mandate, because we do have a rich cultural heritage. What is it you met, and what sort of recommendations did you make? Any achievement within the first year?
Yeah. Certainly. So we have reviewed, upon coming in, the structure of our cultural situation. One of the things that we discovered is that we need to ensure that the model of culture in Grenada is fixed or rectified. I'll tell you what I mean by that. Presently, we are engaged in a cultural situation where all we do is promote a product, but we partake not in the development of the product. So we have some gray areas there. So I'll just give you one example. Costume making, for example. We are often having to order the majority of our costumes out of Ireland. And therefore, if we're talking tradition, if we're talking heritage, we need to ensure that these costumes are actually being produced here,
in Grenada.
right, and being worn by our people. So there are a number of areas that we have seen our culture lacking. For now, what we have embarked upon was to engage in some private-public partnerships. So we are currently training young people. So we just completed that workshop in terms of Calypso. So some of the primary schools. We are going to have a partnership with Lunispark and Electrify, that franchise that deals with the kids Sokamuna, because it has an educational and development component to it, which is to train future soca artists in terms of the quality of songs that they put forward. So Carnival is not just about some of the elements that we currently are singing about, but we need to ensure that the quality of songs that we produce are on world scale and can compete in any country, wherever it goes, and is always the biggest song. At least that's what we're aiming for. So there are a number of initiatives that we have started, and of course the restructuring of Cultural Foundation to make it a bit more relevant. There is a talk to have one entity to manage all of our cultural activities and just appoint different individuals to spearhead the other activities. But that's where we're at now.
And well, we are into the season. We've officially launched Spice Mass. You do have a new board, and so if you speak to us now in terms of the construct of the Spice Mass Corporation, and what is it you as a minister would like to see happen with this season? Because we know your first experience as the Minister of Culture, that didn't yield so much fruits in terms of the outcome in 2022.
That's correct. And to be fair, we came into a situation where we just had to allow whatever was there to happen, because to upend it would have meant causes of delays, etc. So last year certainly was a poor showing, and we have to accept that. There were some good areas that we can boast of, but by and large, last year was a failure. And going forward, this year, we are pretty much very excited that we have added a touch of transformation in the pot, so to speak. So you're going to see improved elements to help promote PAN, for example. You're going to see a higher quality of Queen Show. At least the hype is there now. I'm not a major fan, but I'm certainly going to be interested to see who emerges. So that hype is there, and we have done what we call greater stakeholder engagements. So rather than running something down somebody's throat, what we are engaged in is that question of the partnership. So the structure of SMC has been able to achieve, and I would say in 4 months, because the board was changed actually somewhere around February of this year. So they came into being in February of this year, and they have been able to produce the financial statements. This is a great achievement from many years of backlog. And so that will be laid at the Parliament soon, and the public and other parliamentarians will get to see in terms of spending, etc. So what we have done was a total transformation of the structure and also the direction. We have eliminated, and as minister, we have eliminated this question of unnecessary bacchanal amongst our leaders in the carnival activities. Meaning that if you have to lead a nation with a particular cultural event, there must be no bad blood, so to speak, amongst the stakeholders. We need to work as a team.
One unit.
Yes, one unit. That's correct.
Okay. And how much are you looking forward to, though? Because there has been talks by the artists themselves in terms of increased monies and so it was announced. But what would you like to see happen with the investment in terms of quality of music and lyrics and so? What is it that you would like to see happen to realize that particular investment?
Right. Well, we'd like to see coming out of that improved quality of music being produced. And so, just to be very basic, but music is not the only component, but it's one of the highlights. So, for example, we need to get to the point where we can produce jab, things of that nature. We need to get to the point where we can be able to say that we have Spice Jab, which is going to be trademarked, and the country is benefiting globally whenever it's used, right? So there are a number of initiatives that we have seen which can help infuse. So all the investments we are making, it can help infuse that whole question of unleashing the creativity. But by and large, I would like to see an improved quality of product in general coming out of this new incentive. And the increase in prize money is not the only one. I can see that we have only recently looked at the various music studios throughout the country that culture is responsible for, and with the aim of making it more accessible to artists at an affordable rate, right? So that they do not have to be limited in terms of costs for their creativity, that we can give them access to it so that they can utilize it. Again, this is going to be a direct relationship with improving the quality that is produced and, well, rather, investing in the development with the quality that is produced so that the product that we market is a part of that whole process of development and market.
You are part of the actual line ministry, though. What sort of systems is put in place at this time? Because the buzz is out there,
Yeah.
and it is anticipated to be one of the bigger festivals that Grenada will ever host. So what are the plans to ensure that we have accommodation, enough activities?
Right. Well, we're constantly engaged with GTA, Grenada Tourism Authority, to ensure that we can achieve that objective. As you know, we've seen increased flight or travel arrangements being made for the carnival season. There's a specific program to that effect where GTA and SMC are collaborating to ensure that from an accommodation standpoint and flights and the interest, that we can achieve that mandate. And that's part in what we believe in. There are institutions in Grenada that can do the work. And therefore, what we need to do is to continue to support them to get their job done. So we are confident that we're going to see better synergies, more collaboration among stakeholders to be able to achieve that.
I want us to move now to your work over the past year as we talk constituency, because we must speak to your constituency. What has been achieved?
Yeah. All right. So Northeast is a hybrid constituency which deals both with modern amenities and also some of the traditional aspects like agriculture, for example. It's a big farming constituency. And as such, I think what we were able to achieve thus far in this 1 year is a total revamping of our medical stations. We were able to complete the upgrades and renovations at the Good Hope Medical Center upon a visit in September of last year, 2022. I got a full assessment of all 3 medical stations in the Northeast, and we were able to complete Good Hope. We are preparing to complete New Hampshire, Willis, and then we turn back to Snug Corner. We have been constantly giving donations, that sort of thing. I can see in particular, on June 23rd, we are going to have new refrigerators coming down through my personal efforts to be able to place there. What that will do is to be able to separate in those medical stations, nurses, drinks, food, all these other things was in the same refrigerator with the medication, samples, etc., which we saw as a major problem and could not continue. So we were able to do that. Again, providing jobs. The upcoming call center, government was able to provide tremendous incentive packages for that particular company, and therefore we are satisfied that they are going to be able to provide 600 new jobs within St. George Northeast. That is going to be at the Spice Basket, formerly known as Spice Basket.
Okay.
To that end, the Department of Youth, has already engaged the management there and will be hosting a CV job readiness workshop for constituents in the area. And we will just ask them to come out, participate, and get themselves up and ready.
And education-wise?
Right. Well, education-wise is still a challenge, but I can tell you as MP, we have given tremendous assistance, medical assistance to residents and citizens. We have also supported through education. So at NLA, particularly, I'll be very specific. Some of the funds that would normally be used for all other kinds of things was actually going into paying for the tuition cost for students directly as a result of being line minister and also as MP for St. George Northeast. So a number of students would come. They require support, but it's not a part of the normal standard of scholarships, but we still was able to provide some support through the National Lotteries Authority.
And finally, for me, you're not the substantial minister, but you're the Minister of State within the Ministry of Education. And so, what can you say has happened significantly within that particular ministry for the past year?
Right. Well, I think the push towards universal education is something that we are glad or very happy that we were able to achieve. This is going to open a gateway for tremendous opportunities for countless of Grenadians. In addition to that, in terms of providing an alternative to the Imani program, the question of TVET and how it will stack up in terms of training and being able to require our young people to stay in school up to 18 years so that you are not left with the gap of dropping out at 16, have nothing to do, and becoming an unproductive citizen. But you are able to continue the process. The reintroduction of sixth form is going to help make some of the young people get them stronger, more durable as workers, because the transition from school to some of the higher learning institutions and even work could sometimes be a difficulty. So the longer you stay with a good program, you're going to be able to capture that. So I think one of the big wins is skills development and the push towards universal education, free education, omitting tuition costs and fees, etc. That is going to go a long way.
Minister, I'm about to say thank you very much for the opportunity, but I still want to give you the last word. Is there anything final that you'd like to share as you look back at your first year in government?
As I said, it was rewarding. It was a wonderful learning experience and also busy. And I would cherish those three experiences greatly for the first year and certainly throughout the entire term. And what I would say is that as we work to continue to make Grenada a more stable environment, a more peaceful and more productive and progressive nation, we ask for the commitment of all citizens throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique to join with us to continue that transformation.
Minister, on those words, thank you very much. Viewers, we are speaking here with Minister of State with responsibility for youth, sports, and culture.
Right. So thank you very much there, Sherry and Noel. I think you did an excellent job and you're doing a fantastic job. Also, Abigail McIntyre, they're doing a wonderful job. But boy, I want to encourage those at the top to invest some more in modern equipment, right? So that you can do interviews with better audio and so on. That's important because it's not really them, the hosts or those who are interviewing the ministers, but those at the top. They need to do more to get some equipment that could really facilitate uh, jobs like these or interviews like these. So again, I want to commend GIS for at least interviewing all the ministers of government and doing the extra because they did a wonderful job with me when I interviewed our prime minister. All right, so thumbs up. And I want to also wish my good friend Pumpkin in Mount Airy. I want to wish you happy birthday, my brother. All the best. You know, that's my good boy. Have a wonderful day today and drink a juicy cool on me. Happy birthday to you, Pumpkin. right? He's a good cook. He's just that kind of person who would volunteer in many different ways. So big up your whole self. All right. And well done to my good friend Ron Redhead, the Honorable Ron Redhead, and all the other ministers. And tonight I will feature another minister tonight, maybe the Prime Minister, because he did an entire 1 hour interview, or maybe one of the other ministers, or 2 or 3 of them. So I'm trying my best, right, to feature all of them, to highlight all of them. So, folks, have a wonderful day. Thank you very much, Kim the King, for giving us some extra time there, a good 18 or so minutes extra. Thank you very much, Kim the King, and I want to place on record, my sincere gratitude. Many a times I call you for a little extra time and you would throw it in there for me. Thank you very much. Folks, have a wonderful day. I will be back with you tonight in the hub. I know my good friend Pamela Dolpha sent me a message here. The Beaulieu Village Council, they have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow at the school at the usual venue for 6 p.m. And she's asking all the members to make it to that meeting. That's the Beaulieu Village Council, right? The usual location at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Folks, take good care. Bye for now. We have to wrap it up at this point in time. Bye for now. Bye for now.
The proceeding was a paid program. The views expressed on this program are those of the host.